Welcome to the Inside Nutley podcast. I'm your host, Tom Greco. I'm pleased today to be joined by Courtney Johnson, Director of the Department of Public Affairs and Health's Cultural Inclusion and Diversity Council. And also joining us later will be Nutley Public Health Officer, Michele O'Reilly. Welcome, Courtney.
Hi.
Before we get to the serious stuff, tell me about your experience as the 2024 Nutley Memorial Day Parade Grand Marshal.
Oh, that was an honor. It was something I didn't want to do at the beginning. Because I always feel like there's always someone that's more deserving than myself. But, yeah, I always feel that way. I did spend 21 and a half years in the Marine Corps, and I did see combat. But I'm also thinking about the township, and I always want to make sure that the best person is representing the township, like the town chose the commissioners and the mayor. I believe that's the best choices they could make. And I just wanted to make sure I was living up to that, and I enjoyed it. I'll do it again.
How did you find out you were selected?
Okay, this is funny because we were in a meeting. I was in a meeting with the American Veterans Society, and we were all just looking over some of the prerequisites that we would have for the Grand Marshal. And I'm like, the person needs to be this, they need to be that, and the room gets quiet. And they're like, well, let's cast a vote. And of course, I did not vote for myself. And then I come to the meeting afterwards, and they're like, hey, look, you have to support the Grand Marshal, this and that. And I was like, okay, that'd be great. And they said, it's going to be you. I just fell out. I fainted a little bit. It was like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. And that's how I found out. They sucker punched me.
How did you feel about that? You're not from Nutley. You're an adopted son. It's really a prestigious honor for our town. Tell me what you felt about that.
It felt good. I mean, when you've been all over the world like I have, people say, well, what's some of the places you've been? I always say is, we have to look for the places I haven't been. Nutley holds a very special place in my heart because, and I say this all the time, Nutley people come together. This community comes together. If there's a need, all you have to do is whisper to someone. It's like any small town. You whisper to someone, everyone knows. Just to be a part of that type of family, that type of community that comes together and helps and is there for each other, yeah, it's a big deal to me.
You are the director of the Health Department's Cultural Inclusion and Diversity Council, which was introduced in 2020. Can you tell our audience about the council?
Well, the council was formed to celebrate diverse perspectives. One thing I did like about when I was speaking with the mayor about this, who was the commissioner at the time, when we were talking about the things that we do in the military, we have what we call EEOs. It's called Equal Opportunity Officers. We have those because the military is like the perfect controlled experiment, right? You have people from all over the world in the military. So we wanted to make sure that everyone was represented. And the military wants to make sure that everyone's represented. And they do a very good job with that. So when everyone's represented and they can see themselves in rank, they can see themselves in planning, they can see themselves in situations, administration, logistics, but they see themselves, it makes a more cohesive family. It brings us all together. We can appreciate each other, celebrate each other, and just to be comical in a way, to have heartburn with each other. Let me tell you what that means. We have food that we're celebrating with that comes from every single culture. And you get the chance to just taste that food and understand the history behind it. So I was speaking with the mayor about it. He was like, we should do something like that here in Nutley. The people already are around each other. They're really fellowshipping with each other, but let's dig a little bit deeper. And that's the reason why the council was formed, for us to just dig in just a little bit deeper, to get to know each other, to celebrate each other, to just bring all those perspectives together and be a better township, a better community, I should say.
And in the few years since it started, how's the community responded?
Well, the community's been great, but COVID really threw a monkey wrench into what we were doing. I like the way we put it. We had the conception stage, we had the crawl stage, we had the walk stage. We were starting to get up the crawl just a little bit. You know how the kids, when if you have children, they get up and they stumble a little bit and they start to crawl. And you want to put everything out to protect the kids so they don't stick their fingers in a socket. You want to put some things out there. We were starting to crawl a little bit, and all of a sudden COVID happened, and bam, we're knocked right back down again. So where we are now, is that the thing? I think we can go there, right? Yeah. Where we are now is that we're getting everybody back together. It's kind of like they say, we're getting the band back together, all right? And we're tuning in, we're tuning up, we're writing the music, and we're getting it out to you. That's where we are right now. We just want people to know who we are, know what we're all about, and to bring new people into the band so we can make some music together.
What are some of the goals of the council?
Well, the primary goal of the council is to create a safe environment for everyone and to let everyone know that they're being seen. One word I don't like is tolerance. When people say, well, we have to learn to tolerate each other. I was speaking with the mayor and the board of commissioners at one time. You tolerate mosquitoes. You don't tolerate people. People are to be embraced. People are to be heard. People are to be loved. And that's what this council is all about. To show that you're being embraced by this government, this township, to show that you're being loved by this township. And how do we show love? By making sure that we're very attentive to your needs, and that your culture is being embraced and properly embraced so that we can have education behind it, to celebrate it and to go forward with each other.
Do you think those goals have been met?
No. I don't think the goals have been met. I think that we're moving in the right direction. I don't feel like the goals have been met until there's no need for a council anymore. That's when you know that the goals have been met. I've been asked that question often, and people say, what do you mean by that? It's like when we have, I'm going to get in trouble. It's like when you have Black History Month. When we have Black History Month, that means that the education goals have not been met because we have to have a month to set aside to talk about those things. We have Italian Heritage Month, the same thing. I feel the same. I don't like these months because we have to come into a place where we don't need that to celebrate each other. And with goals to be met when there's no longer a need for this council.
What would you like to see the township and the council do to ensure that these goals are met in the future?
Well, I'd say the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have education. That's the first thing we need to do. I mean, it's good to celebrate. And that's one thing the council, we don't want to be event planners only. We don't want to be window dressing. We actually want to put out education and have the education embraced by the Board of Commissioners who are going to look over everything that we do. They were very adamant about that. Make sure that you bring forth education and then resources. So when you put education and resources together, we will move towards the outcome that we're looking for as a council. So the first thing is to educate. The next thing is to celebrate. So we're in education and celebration.
What are some of the events and educational presentations and things like that the council's put together?
Good question. We had two classes. One was given by a former member of the council. It was on pronouns. Because no one really was saying, hey, look, we really don't want to understand the pronouns, and we don't want to upset the LGBTQ plus community. Could you put out something for people to be able to understand what those pronouns are and to be able to respect those, to be able to show some respect towards people who use those pronouns? So we gave out a class about pronouns. And there was another class that we gave out about, it was about implicit biases. And everyone has implicit biases. So we put that out too so they can be recognized. So these are the things that we do. We put the education out there. We'll have a chat and chew, a lunch and learn. We'll sit down and just do it, and we'll talk. And they're interactive. So we get to hear your perspective about what we're talking about so we can learn from you, and we can just spread it out throughout all the township of Nutley.
Lately, there seems to be some kind of pushback on some DEI programs across the country.
There may be a pushback about the DEI stuff in other townships, but not in Nutley. Not in Nutley. I've heard that before. People don't want DEI. Yes, they do. In Nutley, they do. This council has to be brought about by resolution. Believe me, that is not an easy thing. The mayor and the board of commissioners sat down and they really wanted to know what this is about. And if it wasn't something that was good for the town, it never would have been here. And they're making sure that we're moving in a certain direction to where this council is not weaponized against the town, but we're a weapon for the town to bring diversity to the town. Or to better yet, the diversity is already here, to highlight that diversity. So DEI may be going away somewhere else, but not in the hearts and minds of the mayor and commissioners here in Nutley. No way.
Courtney, we're 4 years into the council. How would you sum it all up thus far?
Sum it all up. The council's here to celebrate, converse, construct, collaborate, and connect with the Township of Nutley. That's what we do. We celebrate by coming together. We converse, we encourage dialogue. We construct, we build bridges. We collaborate, which means we work together, and we connect and build trust. It's our council in a nutshell.
And would you say Nutley's been very welcoming to that?
Nutley has been extremely welcoming to that. I mean, I would say that we need people to come out to the events, the educational events. It's good to have people to come out to the events to celebrate, but we'd like to come out to the events to receive the education. That's the thing, because when you receive the education, you'll see the need to celebrate. No, it's not just for food. It's not just for music. When you receive that education, you're going to want to celebrate. So yes, we come together to celebrate as far as events, but I like to see more of us come together to celebrate for the education.
You are also involved in many of our veteran programs in town, and you have an outstanding military record yourself. Please first tell us about your military service.
Tell you about my military service. Well, I joined the Marine Corps. I've been telling you this, I'm telling my age now. I joined the Marine Corps back in 1986. I left directly out of high school and joined the Marine Corps. My parents were flipping out because I had a scholarship to our school. So I joined the Marine Corps back in 1986. I was trained in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, after going across the footsteps of Paris Island, South Carolina. I went into the Marine Corps as an infantryman because I just wanted to get away from the books for a while, and then realized I wanted to kind of stretch a little bit. I went into the intelligence field. After spending 21 and a half years in the Marine Corps and retiring in 2007, I'm here.
You're involved in Operation Iraqi Freedom, correct?
Yes, sir, I was.
Tell us about that.
Operation Iraqi Freedom. When I tell people this, they really don't believe me, but that will go down as one of the best experiences of my entire life. That will go down as one of the best experiences of my entire life. Talk about diversity. I had my white brothers, my Spanish brothers, my Asian brothers. All of us were going together as a family, and this is the reason why EEO, Equal Opportunity, and DEI is so important. This is the reason why. When we went into that combat situation, prior to us going there, we had already lost 21 Marines. A unit lost 21 Marines. So having that in our mind and looking to our left and our right, we didn't see race. We realized we're all a part of the human race. We didn't see differences. What we saw was family, and we had a common enemy, and we had to go there to engage with that enemy, but most of all, protect each other. Going there, I realized the plan of the Marine Corps, and I realized the great plan, I believe, of God is that, we're all one people, we're all one family, and even like here in Nutley, there's nothing that we can't face together and win. Going to Iraq was a great thing. We were able to free people. There were humanitarian missions that took place. And just like I said, we had 21 people, 21 Marines who were lost before we got there. But when my unit came back, no one was lost. We didn't lose a single soul. So Iraq will always hold a special place in my heart because we were able to help people and all of us came home.
How did that experience change you?
It made me realize, something I always known, but we really do live in the greatest country on the face of the earth. We really, really do. We live in the greatest country on the face of the earth, and yes, we may have our differences, and some of those differences, are really petty in comparison to things that I saw. It changed me to realize that we only have one life, and the greatest thing that we can do in this life is to serve other people. It's not about what we want personally for ourselves all the time. It's about putting other people first. And I believe that this is a good fit because that is really ingrained in my spirit to really want to help people. That's the reason why I think this council is a good fit for the town.
You've been highly decorated for your service, correct?
I don't like talking about it. It's kind of weird. You know that, right?
But I understand that, but you have a fantastic, fantastic record. And I think you should share it with our audience.
You put me on the spot. Well, I received a Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal for finding illegal weapons attaches. We retrieved over 871 illegal weapons. We detained enemies of war. We were able to even capture people who actually shot other people, basically. I'm not trying to be too graphic. But that's what that was for. I received 2 Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medals for my service for humanitarian missions and being able to put in certain types of training. It's called shallow water egress training, sweat seats, for people to be able to egress from aircraft if they went inside of the water. I received another medal for saving someone's life.
I know the department does so much for our veterans, including the recent Hometown Heroes Banners program. As a decorated veteran, how rewarding is it to be involved in these kinds of programs?
Well, that's a good question. Even though I'm with Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, in this office we are a team and we all work together, it is extremely rewarding because I know how veterans feel about being acknowledged. We really like to move in silence. We really don't like to receive accolades. But to be able to just put a banner up and see the picture and get to know the veteran or the family and know the story is an amazing thing. It not only looks good, it's fantastic, but it's an amazing thing to just have that history blowing in the wind. It's just awesome. So it feels really good to be involved. And, the good thing about it is that's not the only thing that this office is doing. That's more and more visual things that we've done. But we also we've been to school here. We're veteran service officers with the state of New Jersey. We also help veterans get their benefits. We help them understand how to be able to navigate the VA and the medical system. So it feels really good to just be a part of that, because it's like I'm still in helping my Marines and helping other members of other branches of the service. So yeah, I may have my hat hung over there, but in here, it feels like I'm still working, getting that done. So thank you. That's a good question, actually. Thank you.
I'm sure the veterans in town relate more to people like yourself and Daniel Jacoby because of the experience that you've had in the military.
Oh yeah. Veterans, I tell people this all the time. My wife's a doctor. She's a psychologist, and she's also a therapist. And yeah, she may get the answers. She's very good at what she does. But to have a service member talk to another service member, been there, done that, we share a common bond from the moment we speak to each other and we look into each other's eyes. There is a unspoken language. There's an embracing that takes place. There's a trust and a brotherhood. And to have that in Nutley, a place where veterans can come and meet another veteran and open up, it's an amazing thing. As a matter of fact, we've had veterans who even wanted to commit suicide, walk through the door, just look in our eyes and we say, we know what's going on. And we close the door and we break down together. And then we build up so that they don't want to have that thought in their head later on.
Let's backtrack a little. You were raised in Florida, correct?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
Okay. We come from a little horse town. You've heard of it before. It's called Ocala, Florida. My family actually owns a horse ranch in Ocala, Florida. No free horses for anyone, though. My mother, who did not want to be a part of the family business, her and my father, they decided to leave and go to a very quiet town called Miami, Florida. I received a really good education there. Clear water, blue skies, strict parents. Very strict parents.
Well, I would imagine it'd have to be in Miami in the 80s, right?
Oh yeah, I grew up in a time where, you know how it is. You drunk out of the water hose, and when they flicked on when the street lights came on, it was time for you to come in.
Yeah.
So you graduated high school, entered the military.
I joined the military, and while I was in the military, I went to college. Went to the University of Arizona, and I went to a private college to receive my degree in theology, International University of Grace and Truth. But there was a reason why I wanted to join the military. I might as well confess it now. I met a girl. She was my high school sweetheart, and I didn't want to go to college in another place where that college was and not be around her. So I joined the Marine Corps. 2 years after I joined, I got married. And I'm still married to this day. This year we celebrate 36 years. My high school sweetheart.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's her name?
Her name is, you're making me blush. I'm black, you can't tell. No, but you're making me blush. My wife's name is Tina Johnson, Tina Michele Johnson. We have 3 sons, Justin, Michael, Christian, David, and Dylan William.
So what led you to Nutley?
Well, what led me to Nutley? There's a Nutley son called Steve Rogers. That name should ring a bell. He is the son of the former commissioner, Steve Rogers. He was one of my Marines in Iraq. And we became very, very close in Iraq, to the point to where he actually would sleep over on my couch. My wife calls him her son, right? It's kind of hard to explain when we go out, but but he became a son, and we're still close to this day. He basically told me, hey, look, my father's there in town. You might want to meet him, blah, blah, blah. I met his father. Very impressed with him, right? He really loves Nutley. And one day, I was just retired, and I get a phone call, right? And it was from Commissioner Steve Rogers about a program he had here in town that he wanted to just make happen. And he said, hey, look, this program is something that I feel like the township would benefit from. And before he can even finish, I said, whatever you need, it's Nutley. And that's how I ended up here.
You are a man of many talents. You are also a pastor, a motivational speaker, and a published author. Is it challenging to wear so many hats?
No, because I've learned how to, in the Marine Corps, I've learned how to just basically disseminate authority, allow authority to work. So we have other leaders. I'm not in this world by myself. I don't do anything alone. So I have leaders that actually help me out with the church as far as writing. My son is also an author, so I'm able to lean on him. My wife is also a writer. I'm able to lean on her. So no, I mean, it's pretty easy as long as you allow people to work in the areas that they're good at. You lean and you trust on them, and you lead and you guide, and it works out pretty great. It's easy for me.
Is there one hat you enjoy wearing more than the other?
This doesn't sound corny. The hat I love wearing the most is being a husband and a father. I am so much in love with my wife and my children. Yes, it's the greatest thing in the world.
You've been working with the Nutley Museum on a potential edition relating to the First Baptist Church of Nutley and the legendary Savoy Record Company. Tell us about that.
Whew, Savoy Records. Okay. Well, actually, I contacted the museum and said, hey, look, an historian said, hey, look, this is what I would like to do. So we're still kind of talking about how we're going to merge those things together. But I am so excited about this. I did not know this. Savoy Records, you might want to look it up. One of my favorite artists, her name is LaShawn Pace Rose. She is with Savoy Records. Savoy Records was the first Black recording studio in the United States. Savoy Records started right here in Nutley, New Jersey. I am blown away. As a matter of fact, I was just listening to LaShawn Pace this morning. You have Reverend Lawrence C. Roberts and the Angelic Choir of First Baptist Church of Nutley. They're known as the loud church that's on the hill to this day, all right? Reverend Roberts, and I'm going to read it just a little bit. He collaborated with the gospel legend, Reverend James Cleveland. This is weird. I listen to James Cleveland almost every day, the song Breathe on Me with Daryl Coley. They produced 14 iconic gospel music albums, and he solidified his place in gospel music with Savoy Records and collaborating with James Cleveland. Now, you know these names. The Angelic Choir, under his leadership, shared the stage with Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Roberta Flack, Sammy Davis Jr., and Ray Charles. You've had people like Queen Latifah come to this town to record at that studio. It's right here in Nutley. I cannot believe that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put an exhibit, and it's going to showcase memorabilia from that time, music. It's going to be interactive, and we're going to have some members of the Angelic Choir to come in to the pop-up and actually speak with you about their experiences, and you'll be able to hear the music. Maybe I can get one of them to sing for us too. It's amazing. Nutley is this hidden gem, and who would not want to work here and promote that? Who would want to do it? I'm so privileged to be able to do it.
All right, now it's time for our quick hits. Courtney, we do this with everyone. I'm going to say a phrase or a thing or a choice, and you tell me what first comes to mind, or if you want to discuss it, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Favorite Jersey Shore town?
Wildwood.
Springsteen or Bon Jovi?
Springsteen.
Giants or Jets?
I'm getting in trouble. Jets.
Yankees or Mets?
Yankees.
Favorite military book?
Well, Sun Tzu.
Favorite military movie?
Wow. Apocalypse Now.
As someone who is still very young and has accomplished so much and inspired so many, what's on your bucket list?
You know what? It's on my bucket list. Wow, I've done everything. Oh, I want to go to Machu Picchu. I want to climb Machu Picchu.
Last question, Courtney. You've been all over the world. Is there any other place like Nutley?
No. And that's not me sucking up either. No, there's no other place like Nutley because Nutley is this floating bubble. And some people might look at that as a bad thing, but Nutley is able to keep its charm so close to New York City. That's one thing. To keep the charm so close to a major city is crazy. You know, and that's the reason why we have a lot of New Yorkers who come to Nutley, because they want to come for the parks. They want to come for the charm that's here. So no. And since I haven't really been with the town since leaving home, you got to remember I left home when I was basically 17 years old. I haven't had the chance to be with a small town too much. So to be around Nutley, and I say when we come together, we come together. I can, you know, I was going to play a little joke. I was going to give a little joke to you and say, hey, look, there's a need for someone to have canned goods. I'll prove it to you. There's someone that's hungry right now. That wouldn't be much of a joke, but a challenge. There's someone who's hungry right now. Bring some canned goods here. We need them. I guarantee you this place will be packed. That's what makes Nutley great. We're able to come together no matter what. So no, there's no other place like Nutley. Nope, not one.
Courtney Johnson, thank you for joining Inside Nutley this month. And most of all, thank you for your service.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Joining us now on Inside Nutley is Nutley Public Health Officer Michele O'Reilly. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Last year, for the first time in over 2 decades, Nutley appointed a public health officer. Was that a daunting challenge for you?
Daunting, no. I was excited to move on to a different kind of health department where it was more focused on community engagement and health screenings and nursing and clinics. So rather than, you know, the hustle and bustle of a big city, I was definitely looking for more of a hometown feel in Nutley for sure. So definitely not daunting, although I welcome the task of, you know, being a health officer here, and them not having a health officer for, you know, their own, you know, for so long. So I was happy to be that for Nutley for sure.
Why didn't we have a public health officer in all that time?
Nutley had always been what's called a shared services agreement or interlocal agreement, and Montclair has always been, you know, kind of like the home base of where the health officer would kind of work from. And that was Tom Restaino for a very long time, and we love Tom Restaino. And also there's not a lot of health officers that are licensed in the state of New Jersey in general. So it's a lot of cities and very few health officers to cover all of them. So a lot of health departments in New Jersey are regionalized, like Monmouth County and Ocean County. But here in Essex and the northern part of the state, you know, we just kind of help each other out. And Montclair had covered Cedar Grove, Verona, and Nutley for a very long time. So it's not uncommon, it's very common.
You had spent most of your career working in Hudson County towns such as Bayonne, Jersey City, and West New York. Was coming to a town like Nutley culture shock at all for you?
It brings me back, I feel like, not a culture shock, but it brings me back to a place that reminds me of when I was young and growing up and having that hometown feel and knowing your neighbor and being able to walk places. A culture shock, yes, in the amount of care that, you know, the town does have for the people of Nutley, you know. It's a good culture shock. Yeah, for sure.
How have you found working with the residents of the town?
Nobody likes change, but the world has changed. COVID-19, the pandemic has changed the world single-handedly. So I know that some of the Nutleyites don't like change, but unfortunately change is here to stay and will continue to change and progress, and, you know, always try to find whatever it is that the residents need.
Tell us what your role as public health officer entails.
My role entails a lot of collaboration from different agencies, both locally, countywide, and statewide. You know, we are, as they say, the invisible shield. You know, when public health is working good, nobody knows about it or nobody cares about it. COVID put us on the map. And, you know, we do have a lot of responsibilities to prevent disease, have prevention efforts in transmission of disease, And, we do everything from restaurant inspections to dog bites to communicable disease outbreaks, public recreational bathing, tattoo parlors, although there are none in Nutley, but that is also something that is very important for us to ensure the tattoo artist is properly vaccinated. They're well-versed in bloodborne pathogens, and they wear the proper PPE and disposal of all the necessary sharps. Public health is revolving and ever-changing, and as a state licensed official, we're constantly in communication with our local, county, and state partners and stakeholders on, whatever's happening now, whatever's, in the news or up and coming.
So you're basically the point person for public health in Nutley, correct?
Absolutely, yes. And public health is not just the health officer, but comprised of nurses, inspectors, public health investigators, our animal control, our environmental services, and, just our public health management in general, yes.
What are some of your day-to-day activities?
Day-to-day activities, well, we are definitely working on applying for as many grant opportunities as possible. So I've submitted 2 grants already on behalf of the Department of Public Affairs and Health for about $250,000 for strengthening local public health infrastructure and sustaining public health infrastructure. So grant research I'm doing. We are also, I'm learning the ropes around here too, because I'm only here for 10 months about. So, just picking up the phone whenever I hear it ringing, just so I can learn, who didn't have their garbage picked up, or, a restaurant needs an inspection, or they want to open a new restaurant.
I know you've been here a relatively short time as public health officer, but I know I've also seen you at almost every event in the last 8 months or so. So tell me, what's it like? What's your perspective on working with the people in town?
It's a lot of keep your mouth closed and your ears open. Definitely just listening to people, understanding their background and where they've came from. In Jersey City, it was always, if you were born at Margaret Haig, you had something in common with someone else. Here in Nutley, it's, everybody talks about the Oval. And I was like, where's the Oval? Like, where's the Oval? Or they say the Mud Hole. And I'm like, the bar, Jim Dandy's? But it's a lot of just listening to the residents. I have no problem with just, listening to them. And they ask some questions about me, but, mostly they're asking what I bring to the table and what I can do for the town and for them. And, just letting them know that we're ready and prepared.
Did you find everyone as welcoming as you expected, or maybe not?
Yes, very welcoming. Very welcoming. It's hard to tell too, because I'm not really in a position of, somebody wanting to give me accolades or clap for me or give me a pat on the back.
Right.
It's tough conversations I have to have with people. And, so it's I can say very welcoming, yes, definitely respecting.
The department has dozens of programs, events, and educational resources. Tell me about some of them.
Okay, so we just did a whole bunch of health screenings for the month of May and June. Heart Health Awareness Month. So we were also doing memory assessments and cancer screenings. Back in September, we actually held the first neurodiverse vaccination event in the state of New Jersey. So that was one of our first events that we did here. Well, not events, but I guess community engagement activity, vaccination clinic. We have our childhood health clinic every month for our uninsured and underinsured populations to ensure they're properly vaccinated for the school year. That's for adults and children. So that's ongoing. Our main events really are in the fall and the flu season, so we get out there as much as we can during that time.
How can our residents best utilize what your department does?
I think it's good for the residents to call, even if they are unsure if they're calling the right place. Let us know that. I'm looking for answers. Maybe you can help. We are more than happy to kind of step out of our lane and reach out on behalf of the residents to other agencies who can potentially help you and your situation.
All right, let's step back a little bit. Let's find out a little bit more about Michele O'Reilly. Where did you grow up?
Jersey City, New Jersey, born and bred. So I commuted from Jersey City to Bayonne to Holy Family Academy, an all-girls Catholic school in Bayonne.
And where did you go to college?
Jersey City. I got my undergraduate degree at New Jersey City University, as well as my master's in health administration.
What inspired you to get into the healthcare field?
Sometimes I feel like your path is laid out for you already, and you just have to be in the right place at the right time. I originally started out doing environmental reviews for federally funded projects. And in college too, I studied geology. So I studied rocks and, stratigraphy and geophysics and water. There's so much to learn about water. And that kind of brought me to the environmental field. So then when I started doing the environmental reports for federally funded projects, I was in a position where I wanted to change slightly. And then I bumped into someone who said, "Hey, what are you doing with yourself now?" And I said, "Well, I got my bachelor's in environmental science." And he was like, "Oh, you should come work for us in Bayonne and be a health inspector." And I said, "A health inspector? I never even knew that job existed. I never knew that there was somebody that went out and inspected restaurants to make sure things were clean and sanitary." So from there, it just kind of catapulted. I was an inspector for about 10 years. And learned a lot and knew I wanted to further my education more into the administration.
So has it been what you expected?
No. The pandemic, and I hate to keep referring back to it, but it was such a pivotal moment in my life. It's truly changed me. It opened my eyes to a lot of the health inequities in vulnerable populations and disproportionately affected populations. But it totally changed my life. That was something that I had only learned in textbooks, I found myself sitting at a table with about 50 people, right before it was declared a global pandemic or public health emergency. And I pretty much told the whole table that, this is what we've studied for and practiced, and we're ready. So I was able to really take the bull by the horns and follow it all the way through from beginning to end.
Tell us about some of your experiences during the pandemic.
Well, on April 4th, 2020, I lost my secretary to COVID. So that's when it got real for me. And, when I'm having conversations with OEM and the hospital about, there not being enough room in the morgue for, deceased individuals. And that, I'm just like, having to have like refrigerated trucks outside of the hospital to, rotate bodies in and out. It's terrible to say and think about, but that is something that definitely stuck out, that, this is real. This is going to change everyone's lives. So that, but also too, on the positive end, we were able to vaccinate or vaccinate, many people, but the actual vaccines, we went through hundreds of thousands of vaccines. So I'm very proud of the team there for getting as many shots in arms as possible.
What do you think we learned from the pandemic? And are we prepared for something else like that?
I think what we learned from the pandemic was that tomorrow's not promised, but that we need to be prepared. Do I think we're prepared for the next? I would like to hope so, but with decreased funding in public health, it's hard to maintain a public health workforce with a lack of funds. There was something called public health priority funding that they discontinued, and I think about 2010, 2011. And that allocated money to public health every year, and that has not been brought back. So I think that, sure, we'll be prepared because we'll all be fresh off a pandemic and we'll know what to do, but will we have the funding to sustain? I don't know.
Okay, it's time for our quick hits. I'm going to say a phrase or a comparison, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Favorite Jersey Shore town?
I'm going to have to go Point Pleasant.
Springsteen or Bon Jovi?
Bon Jovi.
Giants or Jets?
Neither. Steelers.
Oh, okay. Why Steelers?
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Jersey girl.
Dated somebody back in the day, and I've been a Steeler fan ever since. I go out to Pittsburgh once a year to catch a game.
Yankees or Mets?
Yankees.
Favorite fictional nurse?
Favorite fictional nurse?
Yes.
Nurse Ratchet. From One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Favorite medical TV show or movie?
Medical TV show or movie. I really liked Outbreak. Yes.
That's scary now, right?
It
Looking
is
back,
very
that's pretty
scary.
What are some of your future goals as public health officer?
Definitely to continue to apply for more grants and bring more grant funding in here to the town to, sustain the amazing staff that we already have and perhaps build upon that.
If there was one message you wanted to leave our audience with, what would it be?
The ability to drink clean water and breathe breathable air and eat safe food, are protections for all of us. Those are things that public health do day in and day out, and it shouldn't be taken for granted. So we definitely, and wash your hands. But we definitely, nobody knows what public health does until something like a pandemic happens. So let's not take for granted the clean water we drink, the clean air we breathe living in New Jersey, and all of those safeguards that are put in place for us, regardless of, race, ethnicity, or, insurance status. That's a safeguard and protection for all.
Michele O'Reilly, thank you for joining us on this episode of Inside Nutley.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Been a pleasure.
See you soon.